And welcome into the Monday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Rainy, a little bit gross outside. And frankly, Joe, I woke up this morning, looked at my weather app, and said it's May the 5th, and it's 45 degrees outside in the morning. Don't love that. But other than that, I'm doing good.
Yeah, this does not feel like Cinco de Mayo, like your typical Cinco de Mayo. Kind of weird. But we'll persevere.
We will.
We'll be okay.
We'll get through it. It's going to be in the 70s like tomorrow, so we'll be fine.
We'll be all right.
Be all good. What a weekend of sports it was. Ian, how about that? How about that hockey over the weekend?
Fun hockey, huh?
It was awesome.
Couple of bangers.
Yeah. And Game 7 between Dallas and Colorado was great. And then last night was probably better. Like just the way the game played out between St. Louis and Winnipeg. Winnipeg ties it with 1.6 seconds left in regulation and then wins it in double OT. Just what a crazy couple of games in hockey, both in the Central Division over the weekend.
I mean, yeah. In fact, they're showing it right. This is great synchronicity here, showing the highlights right behind you. But I mean, 1.6. If you're the Blues, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You got to be sick today.
You had it. So that's I saw a stat. So these two, is it like the 2-goal deficit in the third of a Game 7?
Yeah.
It happened, 3 times ever?
Yeah.
And it happened twice this
in
weekend.
2 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
That's wild.
Well, I was all in on Colorado Dallas. I've been talking about that series for 2 months now because we've known that that's what it's going to be. And again, it's a shame that it's a first round series when you're talking about, I believe, the 5th overall team in the league and then the 8th overall team in the league playing in the first round. But it goes 7 games.
Pretty dumb.
And
Gary
McKinnon scored basically immediately in the third period. So that gave him a 2-0 lead. And I was like, well, that's it. Like Colorado's going to win. Because Dallas, to that point, had been generating almost nothing. Like there just wasn't a whole lot going on. And then what Mikko Rantanen did in that third period, I mean, that's like it's an all-time performance. Like to score a hat trick and end up with another assist on the fourth goal. So he scored the first 2 to tie it. He assisted on what ultimately ended up being the game winner, and then another goal on the empty net there against his former team that traded him earlier in the year. I mean, that's some all-time stuff right there.
That is some all-time stuff. Yeah. I mean, you think about that line. Colorado, they've all been huge storylines in this series in different ways, but for him to do what he did, my goodness, incredible stuff, man. And this is just getting started in this Stanley Cup playoffs.
Well, and you could see it like on the look of when Rantanen had scored that last one, just the look on like McCarr's face and McKinnon's face, just like, oh, sure would be nice to have that guy over there, wouldn't it? That's great. I'm really glad that he was the one that just totally ended our season there. And, as McKinnon said after, that Dallas beat them without Heiskanen, their best defenseman, and without Jason Robertson, thanks to the Predators, who hurt him in the last game of the regular season, who, people keep calling him their best forward. I think we saw who their best forward was over the weekend in Mikko Rantanen, but, I mean, he's certainly probably second or maybe third behind Wyatt Johnston.
I was going to say Johnson, pretty good too. He
had
the power play goal.
Yeah. So, like,
from like the exact side of the net.
Yeah. By the way.
Yeah.
Pretty good pass from Matt Duchene on that play.
That was.
Pretty good pass from Duchene.
Right.
And he did a nice little fake to kind of sell it and then put it right across the crease there. Good stuff from him. But, yeah, I mean, Dallas, number one, like getting through that series, it's pretty good. And now it's them and Winnipeg. We'll see what that could be an absolute barn burner too. But really good stuff over the weekend in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
The fact that, they're playing, I mean, both of them to be alive right now, pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So we'll see who's like. So someone's luck has to run out, but I mean, they both of them can't have their luck run out. So we'll see.
The crazy part is like Connor Hellebuck, the Jets goalie, has been pretty bad. Like he's
on the road, he's like a 750 save percentage.
Yeah, like
Good Lord.
he's starting to get into territory where it's like, all right, he's a great, there's no maybe. He's the best regular season goalie in the league. But for whatever reason, like he gets to the playoffs, like he wasn't great in the Four Nations when you needed him the most. Like the big games seem to bother him a little bit. That's just the observation I'm making on Hellebuck.
Yeah, no, I tell you what, if not for just the incredible heroics, he'd be a huge story today.
Yeah,
and so he gets another chance here, but there's no question. I mean, it's been very disappointing.
Your Dubs get it done last night in the NBA.
My goodness,
I told you on Friday that just because if they lose Game 6, there's a Game 7, Joe. They're going to be fine.
Yeah,
and here they are.
I
tried to speak some calm into you over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I had kind of talked myself into, you know what, more sleep will be fine. How about more sleep? It's been an amazing run, and then last night you're just like, man, here it is again. Very impressive. Very impressive. Steve Kerr adjustments, and Buddy Hield goes for 33, but all those guys, I mean, Curry in the second half, Draymond was incredible the whole game. I mean, he's the best defensive player in the NBA. He's also a guy who always gets some shot in on somebody, and
he's made some folks mad after last night.
What did he say? I didn't even see what he said after the game.
I didn't see what he said, just from the punch that he threw out there.
Yeah, that was one of those where it's like, I get it. If it's him, everything like that, you have to assume it's like, oh, he snuck away into. Well, you watch the play, and it's like, I don't know that he really did. It doesn't, but it doesn't
matter. It's him.
Doesn't matter. It's Draymond, so he'll get blamed for it. And playoff Jimmy is, he's got to love that guy, man. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to beat Minnesota, but hey, who knows? The West is. I mean, it looks like I know Cleveland, a terrible pick by me, great pick by Ian again. In the playoffs. I still think Cleveland, when they get Darius Garland back, they're going to be really tough to beat. But the West is interesting, man. The Thunder have been great, but are the Thunder going to beat the Nuggets?
That's a heck of a series. Yeah, I mean, Nuggets get it done in Game 7. It was a heck of a night. If you're a Denver sports fan, you had like 2 Game 7s going on basically at the same time with the Nuggets at home and Colorado on the road. One of them turned out good. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't lose both.
The other one you lost in maybe the most heartbreaking way possible of your former son out there just sending you home.
Incredible. Like how many like similar, stories like that. Obviously there's a lot, guys who, beat their former team, but the way it went down this year, and for that to happen, oh my God, they got to be just sick.
It's going to be.
And by the way, I don't hate them like I used to, it's like when they had little Patty Roy and all those,
your boy,
freaking, oh God, the dirtiest player ever, Claude Lemieux, and all these people I cannot stand, but I still hate them. So I'm excited.
Is there anybody that has more pure hatred from like the late 90s, early 2000s Colorado Avalanche than you? Do you think?
I mean, I think it's a pretty universal Detroit Red Wings fan thing, but I mean, I can't possibly hate people. I mean, Patrick Waugh is just an absolute dirtball, and I just want him to suffer in his life. I know that's a terrible thing to say, but I just don't want him to be happy. Man, I want him to have a bad day. I want him to not like a pain or injury or that, but just like bad eggs in the morning. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think sometimes I hope you're having a terrible day.
Somebody knocks his coffee out of his hand when he's walking.
Sure.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. Someone keys his car, maybe.
I gotta quit
stuff like that.
I gotta quit listening to you because they were here late in the year. He's the head coach of the Islanders. And I was sitting in the media scrum just looking at him like, man, Rexrode really hates this guy. That's all I could think about the whole media press.
Did you also not think, gosh, he's punchable, isn't he? He's pretty punchable.
He is a little punchable.
He's a little bit punchable. He has been. He has been. I mean, that 7-goal game in Game 7 in 2002, I mean, it still warms my heart to think about it.
That's all I thought about the whole time. I was like, man, Rexrode really doesn't like this guy. Good gracious.
I mean, I don't think I'm on an island on this, am I? I know, I seen all these tweets now this morning from Kalina Style saying hoping that I get really upset about something today. And then Corey Curtis talking about it, Isaiah and the Dream Team and stuff.
I saw that. Yeah.
Talk about Patrick Waugh. We'll get it going.
We'll get him fired up at that
long
point.
fuse.
I am if you're a Predators fan, it's going to be interesting to see where Colorado goes from here because they basically just went all in and they're one and done in the first round. So You know, they don't really have a lot of draft capital. They don't really have a lot of great prospects. You know, clearly they're running into some cap problems, which is part of the reason they got rid of Rantanen. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go for him. And look, they've got McKinnon and McCarr, so you know there's a baseline of how good they're going to be. But are they going to be like the elite team that is a true cup contender? That's going to be interesting to watch. And a lot of Colorado fans are irate that Jared Bednar want him fired, and I'm just like, well, be careful what you wish for on that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you know, teams go through this stuff, and again, I think this is another great example, as you've said, of the format being a problem. You know, you've ranted about it, we've talked about it. I think that the cost more outweighs the benefit by quite a bit.
Yep.
But at least if you have an error like this, you know you're going to find trouble at some point. Get a cup at least. Get a cup.
Yep. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We got a lot to get into on the program today. We'll be joined by Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com coming up at 7:30. Big day for the Predators today. Number one, Barry Trotz is speaking later today, and we'll see if there's any sort of official clarity on the Andrew Burnett front with him later today. And it's the NHL Draft Lottery coming up later today as well. So will the Predators land the number one overall pick? We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. Corey Curtis will be with us at 8 o'clock as well. Coming up next, I've got a question for Titans fans that is going to be interesting to monitor as we begin the regular season coming up here in a few months. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Joe, CBS Sports came out over the weekend, and now that the draft is over, has re-ranked the AFC teams following the draft. So you'll see in this piece by CBS Sports, which I believe was authored by Jordan DeJohnny, that the Baltimore Ravens have now overtaken the Kansas City Chiefs for the number one spot in the AFC.
Okay.
So we'll, at this point, we'll see if that actually happens in the playoffs at some point. But
yeah,
that's what they have at CBS Sports right now. Coming in dead last, which is 16th in the AFC, is to the Tennessee Titans, to the surprise of nobody. They just finished with the worst record and picked number one overall. So Tennessee Titans, number 16 team in the AFC. Cleveland at 15, Jacksonville at 14, and the Indianapolis Colts at 11. You scroll on down, Houston coming in at number 7 on this spot. So my question for you, my question for Titans fans is, do we feel like the Titans have it all closed the gap on the rest of the AFC South this offseason? Now, going through the AFC South, firstly, there's not much of a gap between the Titans and the Jags. The Jags were awful last year as well. They just happened to beat the Titans twice. So there you go. Mac Jones, congratulations on those 2 wins against the Titans last year. But there's not much of a gap between Jacksonville and Tennessee with the way things are currently structured. We know Cam Ward coming in with the Titans. The big move Jacksonville made in the offseason was, of course, trading up to go get Travis Hunter, to which their GM thinks that he is going to bend time and space and change the game of football as we know it. So wait and see what happens on that front. Indianapolis in a very interesting spot heading into this year with the Daniel Jones / Anthony Richardson quarterback competition heading into training camp. Neither one of those options sound great to me, but we'll see how that works out for Indianapolis. So, Joe, what say you? When you look at the moves the Titans have made, obviously a big part of this question that we cannot at the moment answer is going to be how good is Cam Ward. That's going to determine a lot of what the answer to this question is. But with the moves that the Titans have made on paper, do you feel like they are a better team? Do you feel like they have closed the gap on the rest of the AFC South from where the season ended a year ago? How do you view what the Titans have done to this point?
Well, I think that the draft gives them at least more of a chance because they've changed the math so much. When you draft a a franchise quarterback, and you're going to bring him in, it could be bad, but again, it can't be much worse than last year anyway. And as much as I love Travis Hunter, no, I don't think he's quite going to like revolutionize human life on Earth. But I do love Travis Hunter. It's still, he is one player. Like, I don't expect him to just walk into Jacksonville and, I mean, they have to do a lot more than that too. So they have more, to me, they're more of like the same kind of team, and the Titans could be totally different. So Titans could be better than the Jags this year. This is possible. And frankly, they could be bad. I mean, look, they're all bad. Like, those three are just bad. The only team that I feel good about in this division is Houston, and I don't feel amazing about them, but I feel obviously better about them. I mean, they're going to win the division this year. I mean, if they don't win the division this year, Daniel Jones, in this right up here, as Johnny brings up, Darnold, Baker Mayfield, examples of quarterbacks in new spots having career renaissance. I just don't see that for Daniel Jones. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not going to lie and pretend like I watch a ton of Daniel Jones, but I just don't think Daniel Jones is going to be anything more than a guy who here and there maybe gets a chance to start briefly.
Yeah.
So I know people, they've made some good signings. I know Indy Ben, very excited again. He's popping his head up, on the text line, but I think they're bad too. So the Titans could absolutely be a second place team this year.
Hey, you heard it here first.
How about that?
You heard it here first.
How exciting would that be? They could be a second place team at 5-12. They could be a second place team.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's not a ton of difference between those teams heading into all this. I do not love the situation at quarterback for Indianapolis with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. And frankly, I don't know. I mean, I guess I do know what I'd feel worse about. Like, what you want if you're a Colts fan, I would assume, is for Anthony Richardson to get a lot better and to be clearly the guy in camp. Because frankly, if he gets in camp and they feel like Daniel Jones is the better option to go with at quarterback, that is not good. Like, that is not a good outcome for Indianapolis, in my opinion. I mean, I guess the CBS article leaves room for, we saw Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield find success after leaving their original destination. So I guess you can never rule that out in today's NFL. Frankly, I just don't see much of that with Daniel Jones. I don't think he's very good. So I don't think that's a great option for Indianapolis. Like, I'd be rooting like heck for, man, Anthony Richardson came into camp and he looks a lot better, and he's our guy. We're going with him to start the year. We'll see what happens on that front. I do like the addition of Tyler Warren. I think that's a good pick by Indianapolis. We'll see what happens on that front. The Jacksonville part of this, like, so much of Jacksonville is still, what is Trevor Lawrence? Like, is Trevor Lawrence, can he be anywhere close to the player he was supposed to be when they drafted him? Or is it going to be basically what he's turned into in the NFL, which is, yeah, he'll have some pretty good games on occasion, but for the most part, he's very average. I know health was a problem for him last year, which is how the Titans ended up playing against Mac Jones twice. We'll see if he can stay healthy, number one. But how good are they when Trevor Lawrence is healthy? I think is a legitimate question heading into next year too.
Yeah, and look, I'm big on Travis Hunter is a corner. He needs to be a corner. You throw him a little bit of work on offense. They're talking full-on two-way player stuff, which, again, ends as soon as he gets hurt, as soon as he misses. It doesn't have to be a big injury. He misses a game or two. And, again, like the math says, you cannot expose someone this often in this league. But as of now, they're going to put him on offense a lot. So, I mean, look, if you're Trevor Lawrence, I'm happy with that.
Sure.
I'll take him along with Brian Thomas, and see what we can do. I mean, there's potential there. But yeah, there's still a pretty flawed team up and down. And it's just, it just seems destined for a Titans Jags Thursday night game with color rush uniforms or whatever, right? I mean, it's just
bring back that diaper colored color rush jersey from Jacksonville. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Insides of a diaper.
Yeah, it was real good.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Maybe the worst jersey that I think I've ever seen in the NFL.
And speaking of jerseys, so I mean, Warren Moon is apparently like the Titans.
Yeah, these new jerseys are coming.
Yeah,
don't worry.
He's running Titans comms on the uniforms, but like that should be. I mean, if it's anything like it was last time, that should be revealed real soon, right?
Is he talking about like now? I don't know.
He said next season.
Okay.
In his last interview, because he continues to be interviewed a lot.
I see that.
He said this season. But I haven't heard any confirmation. So I don't know. Warren could be, I guess, off on that.
That would be welcome news to me. Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome to Jared in Spring Hill. Jared, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, fellas. I think Robby, I like how you're optimistic, but I just think there's just so much unproven about this team right now, so that you're just better off putting us all the way down in last place at 16th. Just no unproven quarterback, unproven coach. Have no idea about the line. There's just a lot that I feel like that we don't know, and definitely the national. If we don't know about it, the national media doesn't know about it either. So I'm comfortable down there at the bottom. Let's just, keep padding stats. But can I ask you a hockey question too, Robby?
Sure.
Because okay. So, in football, I don't watch the game enough, but I listen to the game, but it's hard for me to listen and understand completely what's going on and like in the context. What, in football, there's different types of offenses, RPO, play action, like all those different types of offenses. What is the Predators offense, and why do you think it struggled, or why do people think it struggled so much? Again, new hockey guy over here, but loving the content, fellas, man. I hope you all have a great Monday.
Well, it's interesting he brings that up because we're going to get into a little bit of that at 7 o'clock. So we will touch more on that at 7 o'clock because I do have some thoughts on that, and frankly, some thoughts on what I'm interested to hear specifically on that today from Barry Trotz, which we'll get into that at 7 o'clock. So we'll save the hockey part of it for 7 o'clock. Specifically on football, let the record show. I don't know that I'm necessarily optimistic about this. I'm just throwing the question out there because there are some legitimate concerns I've got about the Titans on both sides of the ball, which we're going to get to here in just a second. But I'm just throwing the question out there. I have not really said whether or not I think the Titans have closed the gap.
That counts as optimism. Even allowing for the possibility that it's going to be anything but disaster means that you're now a sunshine blower.
I'm just throwing the
I
question
can
out
assure
there.
you that the gap is closing.
There
That's
you
my
go.
guy.
Ed says Titans shouldn't waste time comparing themselves to others. Should compare themselves to last year and ask, are we better? It's all about Ward. T-Bone. See, this is not what I said, T-Bone. He said, Jared's going to roast you for 6 months for saying the Titans are going to finish second. I didn't say – I said they could. They might. But
Which, again,
whatever. I mean,
may not be a great accomplishment. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even allowing for the possibility is optimism. But again, I mean –
Go look at the rest of the division.
They got a chance here.
It's a pretty buns division when you really look at it.
It is.
Like, even Houston – and I'm with you. Houston's still clearly the best team. But Houston has – revamped their entire offensive line.
They
right?
lost to the freaking Titans at home last year.
Yeah, like they're, how good's their offensive line going to be? Now, I love their receiving core. They've made some more additions to the receiving core this offseason.
They got some dudes on defense too. So, and that's
they're clearly the best team in the division.
Yes.
But even them, it's not like I would not put them in the same conversation of Buffalo or Kansas City. Or
people
Baltimore.
were trying to a year ago,
Right.
and now you got to pump the brakes on that.
So
they just happen to be the best team in the AFC South.
On the Titans front, I've got a question coming up next that the more I dive into it, the more I think it's harder to answer. And that is this. What are we more confident in? The Titans offense or the Titans defense heading into this year? We'll get into that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon, big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. A lot of people asking about the NHL draft lottery. We're going to get into that in the 7 o'clock hour. Barry Trotz is speaking later today as well, so we'll get into all of that. We do have Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com. Who is very good on the NHL draft, coming up at 7:30 on the program as well. So looking forward to all of that. So, Joe, I've got a question that if you've watched Titans football over the last couple of years, you may look at it and say, oh, well, this question's easy. But frankly, the more I dive into it, I think the tougher time I've got in answering the question, which is, what are we more confident in right now? The Titans on the offensive side of the ball or the Titans on the defensive side of the ball? Now, the defense has been better than the offense the last couple of years, although I'm not sure that's saying a whole lot because the offense has been brutal for the last couple of years. And frankly, I know we can go back and look at total yardage last year for the defense and say, wow, I mean, the Titans defense, pretty good if you're just going by total yards allowed last year. You look at points allowed, and frankly, if you watch the eyeball test and watch the way they played last year, I think Titans defense got some work to do heading into this year. I look at the offseason additions, and I say, you know what? The Titans have basically revamped their offensive line with Dan Moore coming in at left tackle, Zeitler coming in at right guard, Latham moving to the right side at right tackle. And by the way, Brian Callahan did mention Cushenberry last week. It said that he is on track in his recovery. Now, what exactly does that mean? We'll see. I don't know. Is he going to be available for week 1? We'll find out. It's hard for me to believe that, but we'll see what happens on that front. But they do have a new look offensive line. Obviously, they have a new quarterback, and we'll see what sort of an impact their new receiving core can make. You look on the defensive side of things right now, Joe, and I look at edge rusher specifically, and I'm like, whew, I do not feel good about edge rusher with the way things are lined up at the moment. There's the L'Jarius Sneed situation looming in the background of, all right, number one, is he going to be available? And that's both via his health and the situation off the field that's going on with L'Jarius Sneed. If not, what sort of impact is that going to have on the defensive side of things? Do you feel great about where they're at with inside linebacker right now? I actually do feel pretty good about where they're at with safety coming out of the draft. We'll see what that looks like on that front. But there's still a lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball as well. So, Joe Rexrode, I ask you, as we sit here today on Monday, May the 5th, which side of the football are you feeling better about with the Titans right now, the offense or the defense?
And clearly the offense for me. And yeah, no idea what we're going to see from Cam Ward, but I guess maybe feeling better. Maybe I'm confusing a little bit with being interested in, but still, I mean, they've done things to the offensive line. I am confident. And I think Brian Callahan kind of said it without saying it. Like Zeitler is that's a nice signing. We'll see on more, but they're bringing in these young receivers. So there's some excitement there. Young tight end, there's some excitement there. We already know the running back position is one of their stronger positions. I think definitely either could be terrible. Don't get me wrong, but they've done a lot, to me, a lot more to help the offense. And look, when it comes down to it, if you're going to be bad, but also able to score some points, able to give us some entertaining games. But no, I have real questions about the defense. Landry, you say whatever you want about Landry and his age and getting slower and all that stuff. The guy was still a solid football player who's gone. The edge position, which is so important in football. I mean, I think it's the worst group in the league. Show me a worse group of edge players than the Tennessee Titans are presenting right now.
Be hard to find. I mean,
like
we'll see what Oladejo is.
We'll see. We'll see. But he's a project.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I mean, the Winston pick has grown on me. When you really look at what he probably would be if not for the an ACL partial tear early in the season. So I mean, he's going to be playing.
And you've got Woods that you brought in, and you've got Hooker there too. So you've got some veteran guys that are also there.
Yeah, but I also edges. Everyone agrees is so critically important. Yep. We all know this. Inside linebacker is probably the most underrated. It's always going to be important. It doesn't matter if it's not, everybody running the ball 40 times. It's a hugely important position, and you think about when the Titans had David Long Jr. at his best and what that meant as a guy who could drop into coverage, as a guy who could blitz, who just had an instinct and was around the ball all the time. And they just have not been able to, or they haven't done enough to address that position. I think the defense could be pretty cheeks this year, frankly.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it. I don't feel great about the defense right now. I think most of that stems from me wondering where the pressure on the quarterback is coming from. Now, we talked about this last year. Denard Wilson, with his background on defense, being at different places where they generate pressure other ways than just the edge rushers, right? Which is great in theory. And frankly, they didn't do that a whole lot last year. And you look at it right now and it's like, okay, how equipped are you to generate pressure on the quarterback, even beyond just where you're at with edge rusher right now? Like, frankly, also, like, I don't feel great about Sweat and Simmons from that aspect of it. I'm not saying they're not good players, but if you're relying on those two to be the ones that get after the quarterback, I just don't know that they're going to be able to do that consistently enough based on, number one, the position they play, and number two, the recent body of work with those two, which is not really getting after the quarterback all that much. So if you can't affect the quarterback as a defense in today's NFL, I think you're already starting behind the eight ball a little bit. Now, I understand if you're a Titans fan, and look, frankly, most of the responses we've gotten on the text line so far say that they feel better about the defense. And I think that's probably for having watched this offense the last couple of years. Just until you see it with the offense, I'll believe it when I see it. And I understand that if you're taking that approach.
Yeah, I get
if you're a Titans fan. Frankly, you're right. Like, both have a chance of being pretty bad. they both got a chance of being pretty bad. I think I'm with you, though. I think at this exact moment, I feel better about the offense. And frankly, I don't feel great about the offense. So I think it's made me more of a commentary of how down I am on the defense with the way this offseason has gone.
Yeah. I mean, I know Ridley can play. Yeah, I know Simmons can play too. And look, I am allowing for Sweat to take a step. We've gone from a year ago, wondered about his maturity and all these things and his weight. Okay. So it seems like he figured that out. He's going to be a reliable pro. Now, can you get yourself in a different level of shape and a different level of playmaker? But I know Ridley can play. I know Pollard can play. And I feel pretty confident that Cam Ward is going to make plays this year and score touchdowns and do things that are oh, okay. I mean, he may also throw picks, but is that not better than the defense? I just don't know how much the defense is going to be able to dictate terms to many offenses in this league.
So let me ask you this: let's operate under the assumption, which you definitely cannot make, but we'll make it for the sake of this conversation. Let's say that L'Jarius Sneed is healthy, available, and out of trouble all year for the Titans, and he's there. How much better do you feel about the defense if that's the case?
That's a significant improvement for sure. Because now, of course, then the next question is, okay, and is he also playing like L'Jarius Sneed? Well, I have 6 o'clock hour, really off to a good start here. Played in 2023.
Yeah, that's a question I can't answer.
Even if he's available, we continue to get down the road of his age into the 30s, and so. But yeah, if you tell me anything close to 2023 version of L'Jarius Sneed is on the field every Sunday, okay. I mean that does change the math. I'm not enough to all of a sudden start evoking memories of the Keith Bullock Titans or anything, but
it's wow, these guys are stout on defense.
Yeah, but it would help. It would help without question. Because then their corner group looks pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and Sneed, it's great to have that if he's there and available and is playing well. Obviously, that's a huge thing to have if you're the Titans defense. But then it also gets back to, all right, you got a corner group at that point that you would feel pretty good about. But we've talked about this a lot in the NFL. How good is your corner group? How much does it matter if you can't get after the quarterback? And that's something we're gonna find out with the Titans here. So we're throwing the question out there for you: which side of the football, as we sit here today on May the 5th, are you feeling better about if you're a Titans fan? The offensive side or the defensive side? We'll have more on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Nashville's best deal of the week is celebrating National Barbecue Month. Get $50 gift card to Central Barbecue in Capitol View for half off right now. You can try their new barbecue sampler, ribs, wings, barbecue sliders. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We will get into what is a big day for the Nashville Predators coming up here in the 7 o'clock hour with the NHL Draft Lottery tonight. Chance for the Preds to land the number 1 overall pick. Barry Trotz speaking later today about a variety of topics, so we'll get into all that coming up at the 7 o'clock.
A variety of topics, Rick.
Well,
somebody else.
Maybe a Freudian slip. Maybe a Freudian slip there. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if Barry Trotz. After we talked to Alex Doherty the other day, I am wondering, like, Is he going to get up there and just be like, yeah, we're still evaluating the coach? See how that goes. Like, so what more is left to evaluate? That may be my follow-up question.
If he does that, I am calling for a media walkout. Just turn around. Just don't talk to him.
Barry, we'll see you.
Yep. Bye. Just no questions.
We'll see what happens on that.
Brooks,
front.
you have all the questions.
That's right. Ed on the text line says, going back to the question of which side of the football do you feel better about, the offense or the defense for the Titans? Ed says, I'll go offense. Combined quarterback stats from last year, 3,500 yards, 22 touchdowns, 21 picks. It has to be better than that, right? Please say yes. This from Ed on the text line.
I mean, 3,500 yards and 22 touchdowns doesn't sound all that bad. Now, the picks have been a little – and some of those picks counted for like 3 picks. They were so special. But, I don't know if it'll be better. Like, well, Cam Ward, like, again, you're just going by the numbers there. I don't think I'm going to pick Cam Ward to have more than 3,500 yards or necessarily 22 touchdowns.
I hope
Cam
he has
Ward
less
have
than
fewer than
interceptions.
21 picks. Yeah.
I hope he has significantly less than 21 interceptions.
I think he'll probably be less, definitely less on the yardage, less on the interceptions. Maybe not a ton less, but I'm going to say mid-teens on the picks.
I got one texter that says the defense has more decent/good players, so I'll go with them. Concerning the pass rush, Draymond Jones going to be key. Has the potential to be an Autry type of player.
I know that's the hope.
That is the hope. I don't think he's quite Danico Autry, but he does, from a versatility standpoint, have that potential, which I think the Titans really liked when they brought him in. So we'll see what that leads to. The question is going to be, okay, versatility is good. How effective are you at your role and what you're playing? Like, can he legitimately get after the quarterback on a consistent basis with this team? That's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Dustin says, the old character building and competent franchise. I'm expecting a failure. If it can be screwed up, we will. He says he does think the coach's defense at the podium as we're losing gets progressively stronger. So there you go.
That's good.
We haven't talked about that even. Yeah. Someone also said, hey, I'm excited about special teams. Can we talk about special teams?
I mean,
you do have a accomplished special teams coach.
In all seriousness, we talk about how many more games would they have won last year with competent quarterback play, just not giving games away at the quarterback position. I mean, how many more games would they have won last year if they weren't just a total tire fire on special teams? At least a couple.
Right. I mean, that special teams was bad enough to help the defense statistically.
It was.
Be deceivingly good.
I mean, now, granted, one of the worst special teams, maybe the worst special teams game I've ever seen played in the history of the National Football League was when they were in Detroit. And I don't think it would have mattered had the special teams been lights out that day. They still would have gotten their butts kicked, but it would have been less embarrassing than it was at that point. So do not put that one in the category of games they would have won had the special teams not been a disaster.
No, but that was, I mean, they've had some real doozies, I'll tell you what. So that's that should be better. And I mean, that matters. I mean, it does matter.
You say that should be better, and I agree. Like, from a coverage standpoint, it should.
Yeah.
But I mean, they got a new kicker this year. They're having a new punter this year.
Maybe.
I mean,
yeah. Maybe some. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you have questions at the two most important spots. You also maybe have an answer on punt return. We've thought that before, though, and then it hasn't played out. But at least there's some hope.
One texter says, until I see an improved offensive line, I cannot trust them at all, which is why I have to go defense.
That's fair.
It feels like every year the media and Titans fans keep saying the offensive line can't be worse than last year, and somehow it always ends up worse. This is from an unnamed texter on the text line.
Well, if it ends up worse this year, everybody's fired.
Yes.
So I mean, like, it's just because then you're talking about, first of all, again, you draft a quarterback number 1 overall. You have to, and they did. They tried. They did what they could. I'm not a huge fan of the Dan Moore signing, but I do get it because you had to do something. And it's just like that's the reality of free agency and offensive line play in this league. But if they're not quite a bit better, again, the bar's low. But if they're not significantly better, then I think it's going to be a real bad season and probably transition in coaching.
Here's what you hope for, and this sounds like such a low bar to clear in the NFL, But think about their offensive line the last couple of years. They had, at one point, an absolute turnstile in Dennis Daly over there playing left tackle. And then the next year, they had an absolute turnstile in Andre Dillard over there playing left tackle. And then last year, they had maybe the biggest turnstile of all in your boy PT playing right tackle over there. I hope that Dan Moore, even though like you brought up the numbers and we've talked about that over and over again since they signed him, I don't think he's a turnstile. Like, I don't think he's that bad. So if you can get through like a season here without having just one glaringly obvious spot on your offensive line that just gives you no chance and you know it heading into that week, how much of a difference does that make of just not having a guy out there that is just an absolute sieve on that offensive line?
Yeah. I mean, to me, the biggest path to competence is that Latham takes a huge step.
He needs to be an elite right
and
tackle.
He loves to be
Yeah.
going back to the right side, and it's like, okay, you're looking good over there now. And then with him and Zeitler, I mean, I can definitely see the mashing going on there with those two. But if you have that, that's, to me, the more realistic hope that Dan Moore's going to come in here and be like, oh, wow, this is the left tackle we've all been waiting for. But can he be okay? If he's okay and Latham takes that step, then then all of a sudden you definitely have a better offensive line and probably a significantly better offensive line.
On the Latham front, like I'm still not a huge fan of drafting him to be your franchise left tackle and then a year later saying, well, we're giving up on that. We're moving him to the right side. I don't like that. And I think, frankly, if you're drafting somebody 7th overall to be your left tackle, they should be your left tackle. But if he becomes an elite right tackle, and I'm saying if they're doing this, he needs to be an elite right tackle, and you've got that combination of him and Zeitler on the right side, maybe they can, I mean, they used to have those hats that say run left. Maybe you get a run right hat at that point.
There you go. Yeah, I don't like elite. It's like with Skoronski. What's the step he's going to take? How much? We're still waiting on him to take steps here and there. You see something, but it's like, can you be good? Can you be pretty good to good? And with Latham, you want more than that. I mean, it's only been 1 year. I agree. It does not speak well of anyone in this process that you did what you did and then immediately gave up on it. But maybe this is at least the best spot for him, and he can be hit. I mean, if he takes a big step would be to good.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't terrible last year. He had his moments, but I thought it kind of
he's way up and
down. Got a little bit worse. Good. Yeah. But again, if you can have either tackle be good, that is very different than what we've seen in the last few years. It changes the math.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, it's a big day for the Nashville Predators. The NHL Draft Lottery coming up tonight. Will the Predators land the number 1 overall pick? If not, what are their options that are on the table for them that are out there? We're going to get into that next hour as well. Adam Kimmelman will be with us at 7:30. And Barry Trotz is speaking today. So is there anything Barry Trotz can say today, assuming that he is keeping the coach, which I think he is? We'll see. Is there anything that he can say that will inspire confidence with Predators fans? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com will be with us at 7:30. We'll go over the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NHL draft lottery with him later this hour at 7:30. So looking forward to that. Corey Curtis from News 2 at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. And Joe, later today, Barry Trotz will be addressing the media. It will be the first time he has addressed the media since the season has come to an end. He was originally supposed to do it, I believe, the Wednesday after the season ended. So that would have been, I think, exactly 1 week after the regular season came to an end. And it's taken a little longer. And we've spent a lot of time discussing what that means and what the reason could be for why it's taken him so long to address the media after all this has taken place. I said it the other day. I think they announced last Wednesday that Barry Trotz was speaking today. So it was difficult for me to believe that they had come to the conclusion that they were going to fire Andrew Burnett and then say, we'll have a press conference in 5 days. Like, it's very difficult for me to believe that that's the way things are going to go. So I would give the chances of that happening today almost zero. Like, I don't think he's going to walk up on stage and be like, yeah, Andrew Burnett's not the coach anymore. I'd be stunned if that took place at this point. The question is, what is he going to say? Is he going to say definitively that Andrew Burnett is back next year? Is he going to do what Alex Doherty said on our show the other day, which is say that they're still evaluating here and leave the options open? I don't think that's a great idea either, but we'll wait and see what happens. But let's operate, Joe, under the assumption that he comes up there today and he says Burnett is back and they've gone through their process here and that Burnett is coming back as head coach. A lot of Predators fans aren't going to like that, given the way that this season went. I don't know how to assign a percentage to it. You know, we hear from a lot of angry Preds fans a lot about the coach and the moves and all those things. How many are going to be really upset with Andrew Burnett coming back? I don't know. I do think it's a significant percentage. But frankly, like at this point, I would probably expect it if you're one of those Predators fans.
Yeah, you can't be surprised right now.
Exactly. So, given that, and given the way the season went, is there anything Barry Trotz can say today where if you're a Predators fan, you hear it and you're like, all right, I've got a little bit of hope, a little bit of optimism heading into next year? Or have we reached the point with this current setup where it's like, man, you're just going to have to show me before I believe any sort of optimism that's coming your way out of the organization here? I'm very interested to see if he does what I think he's going to do today, which is get up there and say that Andrew Burnett is coming back. I'm very interested to see what his process was, how much detail he's willing to go into about it, and frankly, what he thinks about some of the comments from Marchessault and Stamkos and all those guys that we've talked about in the aftermath of the season.
Yeah, definitely don't. And I wouldn't expect it from Barry, but it's kind of like you go back to the Cam Ward being drafted. Was he number 1 on your road? Yep. So, the idea of like, oh, there was never any doubt. Burnett, what do you guys thought? Burnett there was never any doubt. We just didn't want to tell you guys. I mean, clearly this has been a process that has involved some serious thinking.
Well, I hope he doesn't say that because we know there was doubt because Andrew Burnett had doubt after the season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he basically said, well, I'll move on. I will survive. He went Gloria Gaynor on his presser.
He did.
So,
nice.
Yeah, thank you. It's clearly this was a tough decision and it's not an easy one. And so I hope that with Barry Trotz, he's often an open book more than a lot of people. So I don't expect him to say, yeah, Marchessault really ripped him, guys. And I tell you, I don't expect that level of transparency, but some transparency. And again, why? Why is he the right guy for you? Why do you think it will be different when you know that for the most part, the roster isn't going to be vastly different.
Right.
So why does this roster and this coach, why do you believe that can work?
Right.
What are the adjustments he needs to make? All that stuff. But yeah, I expect the presser today to be that, basically the explanation of why Andrew Burnett's the coach again. And also, okay, so what's the expectation for next year? Because look, whether Barry Trotz believes it or not, certainly the outside world is going to have Andrew Burnett right at the very top of those hot seat lists going into the season.
Yes, and his players, the veteran players that we've talked about, and look, Stamkos and Marchessault we heard from directly on this. But look, to me, you can throw Philip Forsberg in this. You could throw Saros. You could throw Yossi, O'Reilly. Like, their expectation is to compete and win next year. Now, how realistic is that going to be with where they're at right now? I have no idea. But like Stamkos has talked about it, they're not really interested in any quote unquote rebuild. They're not really interested in that, nor should they be.
No.
So
heck no.
I would imagine that the plan communicated to them is not that. I mean, I think we'd be running into some problems here if that was the plan communicated from Barry Trotz to these players. So what exactly, he's not going to go into detail. Like, well, I'm going to trade for this player and I'm going to make this move. I understand that heading into today, but like clearly, if you believe your players are on board with this, you have to, in my opinion, have communicated some sort of plan this offseason that you're going to get them back in contention. Like it cannot be, nor do I think it is as simple as, well, we'll just try it again next year with the same exact setup and hope that we get better results. Like, I think if that's what your expectation is heading into next year, it could be another long year at that point.
Yeah, but what can you really say in terms of, like you said, obviously it's not going to be the specific move that you might make, but you also don't know that you're going to be able to make a move, right? So, I mean, they have to, like, you don't want to give a false promise.
No, I mean, you can have a better idea, I think, of a free agency move that you can make. Like, you got a rough idea of who's going to be available at this point and your strategy to go land one of those players. Or so maybe they've got a couple of guys, and maybe it's not as high priced or as, star powered as it was a year ago, but maybe they've got a plan for a couple additions there in free agency. They do have draft capital. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at their draft capital right now and say, all right, you got a lot of assets. You've got some good assets in Milwaukee that you can use via trade. So there probably will be some opportunities out there on both fronts that you could try to take advantage of if you're Barry Trotz. Just how much can you actually change your team in one offseason going that route, given where their roster is right now? And frankly, like, how much does the rest of this day play into that? Like, if they go out there and land the number 1 overall pick tonight, what's that going to mean for their roster next year? And we're going to get into some options from that front coming up here in just a few minutes. But I think that's going to be a big part of, I think, the discussion point today too from Trotz. It's probably going to be like, well, got a big opportunity coming up tonight. We'll see what exactly that looks like. We had a question earlier about like the offense and what's going down with the offense on the Predator side of things and why couldn't they score this year. That, as much as I'm interested in Burnett and the players and all that, and the comments from the players and all that today, I'm really interested to see Trotz's thoughts on that. Like, as a former coach, like, clearly what they did, as Marchessault said, clearly it didn't work. That was his response to the system that they ran this year. So what's going to be different? And if you're keeping the coach, how much different can it actually be? Like, how much different do you want it to be if you're keeping the coach?
Right. And that's the thing, that's where you can really change things if you made this move, and you could buy the idea that it could be way different even with a lot of the same guys. Well, some of the answer is, as all these veterans, some of them said it too, is like they have to play better. Yep. Individually, collectively, they have to play better. But not firing the coach, bringing back the coaching staff means that it's more on. Yep. I mean, it's more on them, and it's more on whatever roster change that you can, that you can make here. Derek from Nolensville, Fridays for Nights, says if he doesn't fire Burnett, then he's admitting it was his mistake this year. If that's the case, Trotz gets one more year, and then he can fire himself. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to do that, but I do think there's a shift, and I get it a little bit of like, okay, so is Trotz the issue here? And keeping Burnett is not going to endear him, not that I expect him to care. I mean, it's just about getting the results, but keeping Burnett, which he's going to announce today, is not going to, like, more fans are going to be upset with him because of that.
I would think so. I mean, again, when you see a season go off the rails as much as this one did, people feel like heads need to roll at that point. So when heads don't roll, it's going to be a natural reaction from your fan base. Like, I look, Burnett, I think when they're in the offensive zone, they don't do a whole lot different from other teams in the league, right? Like a lot of the offensive zone stuff is the same league wide. It's more the defensive zone stuff and getting through the neutral zone, which is way different from Andrew Burnett's system. And they've talked about that at length. And Stamkos specifically, when he's talked about like the system challenges, a lot of it has been about when he's played at center, he's doing different things in the defensive zone at center than he's ever had to do in his career. So there's that. And Marchessault talked at the end of the year about some adjustments that they made that largely came in the defensive zone and in the neutral zone. The offensive zone, this is too simplistic of it, but a lot of the offensive zone is also read and react, right? Like what's in front of you? Can you get around the defense and get to the middle there? Like how good is your passing there? Like a lot of it is simple execution in the offensive zone, which frankly, they didn't do a good enough job of that this year either. But one thing that stands out to me is this is supposed to be a team, Joe, that generates a ton of off the rush chances. Like that's what this system really wants to take advantage of. And I look at their roster, their age, frankly, their speed right now, and I say, do they really have the personnel to do that? Like, can you take advantage of offensive zone rush chances with this group right now? And if not, how do you tweak your system to get things more set up, maybe a little bit more deliberately than maybe Andrew Burnett wants to have it set up?
Yeah. So then you're just playing a totally different. And then how married is he to that?
Right.
Again, he obviously made some adjustments this year. He talked to the players. He took feedback, made adjustments. But at what point?
Yeah.
Are you, like you still have to like play how you believe that you want to play. And it is a system that's been successful.
Well, and I thought Stamkos had interesting comments on it at the end of the year. He's like, is there any like one specific thing that has to change with the system? He said, I don't really know that there is, but there's some adjustments and tweaks, I think he said, that you can make along the way that do not involve like total system overhaul that you can make heading into next year. So what are those? And can Andrew Burnett do it? That's going to be the question.
And so then I get back into, so you could have a coach who has experience with veterans and is, things. I mean, that was the argument, but obviously I think that's not the way he's going.
I don't think that it is. Also, a big day for the Predators. The NHL draft lottery is today, and the Predators could join the Titans as teams around here that have the number 1 overall pick. We'll get into that coming up next. And if they do, if they don't, they're not picking anywhere worse than 5th. So what are the options that are going to be on the table? We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
At this point in time, Adam, I don't, as we do this phone call today at 1:09 your time on a Thursday afternoon, I don't have any reason to believe that the Predators are making any kind of change. Andrew Burnett is leaving for Sweden and Denmark for the World Championships as part of the Team Canada staff. I don't have any reason to believe you guys are doing it. I think it is naive to the extreme to look at the quality of people who are out there right now, Adam, and think that they hadn't at least discussed it internally. But I don't have any reason to believe, just should we contact any of these people? How do we feel about any of these people? I don't think you're a good organization if you don't at least ask it internally, but I have no reason to believe as we do this right now, the Predators are going to be doing that.
That was Elliot Friedman last week with DVD on the Andrew Burnett front. Barry Trotz speaking later today to the media, and we'll see if there's an answer definitively on the Andrew Burnett front. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Steve in Franklin. Steve, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. Hey, I would like to hear Barry Trotz say that he's willing to upgrade the goaltender position. Saros this past season gave up more soft goals than ever before. He got yanked out of games more than ever before. And as the season went along, I felt better when the backup goaltender was playing than when he was in there. But I know he's not going to say that, but that's what I wish he would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I mean, they're stuck with goalie. Like, the goalie ain't going anywhere. They got an 8-year contract that's kicking in here in a few weeks. I mean, it is what it is. He's going to have to play better. Like, that's going to be a huge part of this is can he play better next year?
Yeah, it's very discouraging what happened last year, but you're not bailing out on that. You got a couple years of please be good.
So, Joe, very quickly on the NHL draft lottery front, that is tonight for the Predators. They are currently third. So they finished with the third worst record in the league. They got the lottery coming up tonight. Their odds to land the number 1 overall pick are at 11.5%. So for context, San Jose finished the worst record in the league, and they have a 25.5% chance to pick number 1 overall. Chicago at 13.5%, Nashville at 11.5%. So the Preds have the third highest odds to pick number 1. They could end up as low as 5th. So you can only move down 2 spots if you're the Predators tonight. So they're going to be picking somewhere between 1 and 5. We'll see what that looks like for Nashville coming tonight. And for the conspiracy theorists out there, they're doing the draft lottery live for the ping pong balls on TV. So they're not huddling up in a back room and walking out with the Chicago Blackhawks ping pong ball.
Doesn't mean the Blackhawks one isn't frozen beforehand.
It doesn't mean that.
No, that's cool.
We'll see what happens live tonight.
However it works.
Here, the latest from Bob McKenzie over the weekend, who is a longtime TSN hockey insider here. And the consensus still remains what we've talked about a lot here on the show, that Matthew Schaefer, the defenseman, is the number 1 player in the draft. It was unanimous at one point. It's not quite unanimous now, according to McKenzie. Says that Misa has kind of creeped into some people's thoughts as he should be the number 1 player. McKenzie also points out that a lot of that is because of the position he plays, and it's center rather than defenseman, and they just value centerman more. But Misa, I think, has become kind of the guy at center, and I've talked about him for a while. That would be who I would like to see the Predators pick. It is interesting. We've talked a lot about James Higgins as well, who is the center from Boston College. He was number 2 on the list for the majority of the year, and McKenzie talked about it here, says he slipped down to 5 on their list that they put together. They've got Porter Martone, the winger that we've talked about, and they've also got another centerman, Anton Frondell, a forward that's come in and has entered that discussion as well. McKenzie says Higgins is the only one who slipped, checking in at number 5. Scouts seem to be more or less evenly split on the reasoning. Some say his play is tailed off. Others say he's simply leapfrogged by Misa, Martone, and Frondell. A few suggest it was a combination of both factors, but there's kind of your top 5 there. So regardless of where the Predators finish, they're going to end up with a good player here. The question is going to be how good. And frankly, this is what I would love to know, because I think, in my opinion, I know what the answer should be, at least if Robbie Stanley's operating the team. I'm not Barry Trotz. I'm not a hockey executive. But let's say for the sake of this discussion, they end up with the number 1 overall pick. And the Predators have their pick of the litter of who they're going to take in the draft. I would imagine that the Predators' evaluation, if you're going quote unquote best player available, is probably going to be mainly the same as everybody else's, which is Matthew Schaefer's best player in the draft, who is a defenseman. The Predators need a defenseman. I would argue they need a centerman way more than they need a defenseman, and they've never really been in this spot where they've had an opportunity to draft a centerman this high. So I would be surprised, and frankly, I think Predators fans will be irate if they get the number 1 overall pick and they draft a defenseman with it, even though I think the defenseman is going to end up being a great player. I think Misa should be the pick for the Predators if they land the number 1 overall pick. That's just me.
Corey Pronman here at the Athletic. He said if they win the lottery, Schaefer could become Roman Yossi's eventual successor.
I mean, he could.
Best player's best player, man.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Like, I think Schaefer could be a very, very good defenseman in this league. But I'm just telling you, if that's the route they go, particularly if it's one thing if they're picking 4th or 5th and he's there and they take him, which frankly I don't think he will be.
No, he won't be.
But it's one thing if it goes down that way. Like if they got the number 1 overall pick and they chose him over a centerman, I don't think that'd go over very well.
It almost, again, it's like the best case would almost be, obviously you want the number 1 pick, of course. You want to be able to dictate it, but if they actually got the 3rd pick.
Or even like the second.
Like
if you moved up to second.
Schaefer goes, and it's like, okay, so.
Like if San Jose took Schaefer, which I think they will. Like if San Jose ends up number 1 pick, they took Will Smith a couple years ago with the draft here in Nashville, top 5 pick of centerman. They took, obviously, Celebrini last year, number 1 pick centerman. So they've got a couple stud centermen in their group now. I think they'd go Schaefer. So we'll see. Those are your options if you're the Predators.
Yeah, and then we've talked about Roger McQueen a little bit.
Yeah, people still split on him.
The back injury does not make me feel like back injury.
Yeah.
Just
I know we're talking about 17 and 18-year-olds here, so like how significant is it? But still.
Sciatica.
Yes.
Thank you. Exactly. Don't want that.
We'll be joined by Adam Kemmelman from NHL.com. Coming up next, we'll get his thoughts on the NHL Draft Lottery and the options for the Predators. That's coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning. NHL Draft Lottery Day. We're going to find out later today where the Predators are picking in the draft. And to help us talk more about that, let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our friend Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com. Adam, good morning, brother. How we doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, could be a big day for the Predators here. We'll see where they land tonight. But, Adam, let's just start here. We know that they're going to be in the top 5. So, as you look at guys that are potentially there in the top 5 and how this could shake out, what do you make of kind of the strength of this draft class at the top of it? How good do you think this class could be for the first 5 picks?
Well, I think there are guys who can be contributors, maybe not as soon as next season, but I think there's guys within the next 2 to 3 years could be prime players on a team. You know, you look at someone like Matthew Schaefer, who most likely is going to be the number 1 pick, the defenseman from Erie in the Ontario Hockey League. He has everything you want in defenseman. He's big, he's strong, he skates well. You need a guy who can quarterback your power play. He can do it. You need a guy who can lead your penalty kill. He can do it. You need a guy who can produce, offense from the blue line up a goal, when you're chasing a game. He can do it. He's a guy who plays in all situations and plays really well. If you're looking for up front, a player like Michael Misa, 134 points this year with Saginaw in the Ontario League, projects to be sort of a John Tavares type where he's not going to maybe blow you out of the water with his raw skill, but you look at the end of the night, he's got a goal, he's got a couple of points, and he can be a big-time producer for you, without having all the big flash in his game. But he is just a hard, smart player who's going to excel in all 3 zones. So there's a lot of everything depending on sort of what you're looking for in this year's draft.
So, Adam, this is a discussion we've had a lot about the Preds knowing this was coming, which is, okay, let's say they get the number 1 pick. Like you said, most people look at Schaefer as the top prospect in this draft. The Preds are light there now, too. They need help there, too. But they just have never been able to find that centerman that maybe you could have in a Misa. This franchise has obviously struggled to draft and develop forwards. If the Preds were in that position tonight, what would you advise them to do?
If they had the number 1 pick, you take the best player available. And if your determination is the best player available is Matthew Schaefer, you take that player. You can't mess around when it comes to drafting for position at that point. I think from everything, and again, this is just my opinion, from everything I've seen this year, Matthew Schaefer at a premium position has separated himself from the pack in a way that, he will be the number 1 pick in the draft, I believe. No matter who wins it, he's going to be the guy because he has, NHL ready size. You don't have to wait for him to develop physically. Obviously, you want him to get a little bit stronger and kind of build his body up a little bit more. But he's most likely going to need at least 1 more year of junior hockey before he's ready because he didn't play after December 30th because of the broken collarbone. So whoever you draft with that pick, you're going to probably want to send back for another year of development. But to me, you've got a guy who plays in all situations, who has close to NHL ready size, who plays a premium position. I think to me, whether I'm loaded on defense or not, I'm taking the best player available because you never know what can happen from 1 year to the next, from 1 week to the next. And to me, it's Matthew Schaefer. So yes, obviously, it's not any sort of great secret that Nashville has not had that number 1 centerman to build and develop around. That's a need, but you also need top pair defensemen, and Matthew Schaefer fits that bill. And if you have the number 1 pick, you take the best player available. And to me, it's Matthew Schaefer.
So, what do you make of the year that Hagen's had here? Because we've obviously talked a lot about him as well. And, I was reading something in the last segment from Bob McKenzie, who was talking about, the split on him and him dropping down to number 5 in the draft for some scouts here. Obviously, he's incredibly skilled. You got Porter Martone in the mix. Frondell is in the mix as well. But what do you make of Hagan specifically and the player that he projects to be at the NHL level?
I think Hagan's had a nice season in college. I don't think he had the dominant season that, probably unfairly people assumed he would have walking into, the BC program as an 18-year-old and just expecting him to dominate in the way that maybe Macklin Celebrini did 2 years ago. Maybe it's a little bit unfair, but remember, he was the number one center on probably the number one line in college hockey with Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault. He was the number one center on the team that won the World Junior Championship. He was tied for the leading goals on that team with 5. He had a really, really strong season. There were portions of it where, he would, I don't want to say disappear because that's really not the right word, where the production wasn't there like you sort of expected or hoped it would be. A little bit of an up and down. But again, he's a college freshman. I mean, you kind of can't get away from that fact that he's at 18 years old playing against guys who are 22, 23. It's a hard road to climb for anybody. And I don't think it's a knock on him that he was, quote unquote, only a point a game player. It's 37 points in 37 games, got his team to the NCAA tournament. He had a really good season. I think when people sort of measure what they think James Hagan should have done or what he did versus what he should have done, I think that you're getting into a little bit of an unfair territory. I think he projects to be a really good top 2 pair center at the next level. I don't think he's ready to jump in and be that guy in the 25-26 season. But I think if you're smart in your development with him, sort of along the same lines that Jack Hughes took to develop, where at 18 years old, he jumped from the U.S. national team program into the NHL, and it was a little bit of a struggle for Jack Hughes those first, 2 years, say. Then in year 3, he figured it out, he hit his stride, and now you're seeing a real superstar player. I think James Hagan's could be sort of following that same track where, if you let him have that patience and give him that time to develop, to grow his body, to grow his skills, to physically develop, I think you're going to end up with a really, really outstanding player. But you need to have patience with this player. And I think teams, unfortunately, kind of fall into this, well, we take him in the top 5. He's got to go right into our NHL lineup, right? Well, not necessarily. Not if you're looking at the long haul, sacrificing 1 year for maybe 10, 12, 15 years of outstanding play, maybe that's what you have to do. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what team is willing to take Hagan somewhere in the top 5, top 6, wherever he ends up. And then what do you do afterwards when it comes to the development process? Because I think that's going to be just as important as anything else.
Roger McQueen, 6'5", lots to love about his game. Back injury, which always makes me feel a little nervous. And where do you come down on Roger McQueen?
He might be the most polarizing player in this year's draft because when you look at the talent, you watch him play, you see a 6'5" guy who skates like a 5'8" guy who is just a dominant player out there. You watch him, you think like Jeff Carter, you think Quentin Byfield, once he kind of gets some of that quote unquote man strength. But as you said, the back injury is very worrisome. I think you saw it last year with Caden Lindstrom, another Western Hockey League player, missed a lot of time with a significant injury, and he hasn't played since last year Christmas. He was the number 4 pick in the draft. His talent, when he was healthy, dictated he'd be the number 4 pick in the draft. But he hasn't been able to get on the ice. So there's some concern there that where is it all headed with Caden Lindstrom? Well, teams are watching Roger McQueen through that spectrum and saying, well, if we're going to use a top 3, top 4, top 5 pick on a guy who now has this issue, how do we know it's not going to go the same way? Now, what it helps is that Roger McQueen did come back at the end of the season, played a few regular season games, played a little bit in the playoffs for Brandon before he had another injury, which I believe is unrelated, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So teams are going to really have to do their homework on the medical side with McQueen, because if he's healthy, we might not be talking about Matthew Shaver as the absolute number 1 pick in the draft. could be a completely different conversation with a fully healthy Roger McQueen. So it's a little bit of a risk reward there. How much risk are you willing to take for the potential of a huge reward?
Adam, last thing here for you. We were talking about at the beginning of the show. What a weekend in the NHL with the Rantanen story for Dallas in Game 7 in the third period on Saturday, and then last night's crazy finish in Winnipeg with the Jets. That the Rantanen story specifically. I mean, that's an all-time legendary performance by him in that period. What did you make of what we saw in the 2 Game 7s over the weekend?
Just fantastic hockey. I mean, as you said, the Rantanen story just. I'm sure if you go back to, January or February, whenever the first Rantanen trade happened, I'm sure Chris McFarland, the Avalanche general manager, said, well, I'm never going to have to worry about playing this guy again in the playoffs unless we get to the Stanley Cup final, in which case I'll live with it. Fast forward 3 months later, you're going against him, not just, at the end of the regular season when he comes back to your division. Now you have to go against him in the playoffs. Now you might have to go against him in the playoffs for the next 8 years after this. Just, it's just, you couldn't script it any, better / worse, depending on your perspective. But it's just, you couldn't, you show this script to a Hollywood scriptwriter and they hand it back to you and go, nah, too unrealistic. This kind of thing would never happen. And here we are. And then, then you look ahead to last night, to the Jets and the Blues, and you watch those first 2 goals get past Connor Hellebuck, and you're thinking, well, here's another season of Vezina Trophy, Hart Trophy caliber play, completely washed away by a poor playoff run. It happened last year in the first round. Now it's going to happen again. And you just sort of waiting for that other shoe to drop. And full marks to Winnipeg. You're missing your number 1 center. You're missing your number 1 defenseman for all but 6 or 7 minutes of that game. And they stuck with it. They grinded it out, and they were able to get that remarkable tying goal with, I believe it was 1.7 seconds left. Cole Perfetti, as much as everybody talks about Rantanen the night before, I think what Cole Perfetti did in that game last night was just as huge. He was a dominant player. Every time he stepped on the ice, you just expected something to happen. And, at the end, full credit to Neil Pionk. He played 46 minutes, still had a couple of assists, including on the winning goal. The Jets are moving on. And now it's going to be another meat grinder in the second round, Dallas and Winnipeg. What do either one of those teams have left from an injury standpoint? Dallas is missing its best defenseman and one of its top line forwards in Miro Heiskanen and Jason Robertson. So the playoffs are a wonderful war of attrition, and you kind of saw it personified there in the first round.
Yeah, absolutely awesome stuff. Could be a big night for the Preds tonight. Looking forward to the NHL draft lottery. Adam, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
May the lottery balls ever bounce in your favor. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Adam Kimmelman, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We got the Rob Rant coming up next. Corey Curtis will be with us at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
You look at the plate, it's like, how could one human being even approach coming close to eating this? Texas, I think, has the most per capita.
You saw the 11,000 calorie lunch I had yesterday on my way out of town. Good God. I mean, I was in serious pain last night, but my God, that beef rib, holy cow.
Of course he is. It's like Joe Milton.
More than once when I was in San Antonio, I corrected people who called Texas UT.
Just personally, for me, the best area in the country for food is Texas. I love, like, just the amount of things that you can find in Texas.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountains?
Texas isn't a state without the volunteers making sure that that Texas is a state.
So have some of that.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be UT. I'm sorry, Texas.
We're vibing, Robby.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant. We're on 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Joe, there's plenty about the NFL draft that we get wrong. I mean, we get wrong. NFL teams get wrong. NFL media get wrong. One thing I felt pretty good about heading into this draft was, what exactly is Quinn Ewers doing? Why is he entering the draft? He should go back to college football and play a little college football. And he ended up getting taken in the 7th round, and I felt pretty validated from it. But apparently his agent, not very happy about it. This is a story coming from the New York Post, Joe. And I'll just read the first few graphs from it. An NFL draft slide sometimes doesn't come with any clarity or a pinpointed explanation. Agent Ron Slavin feels that that's the case with his client and former Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. Prior to the 3-day draft spectacle, Ewers didn't expect to be among the first 32 selections, with the second round being more of a possibility. However, he was the 13th and final quarterback taken in the 2025 draft, getting selected with the number 231 pick in the 7th round by the Miami Dolphins. Slavin told ESPN that he reached out to, quote, half the league the day after the draft to find out why Ewers had such a big slide. The answer, he said, was, quote, chicken bleep. They thought, this is a quote from Slavin's Ewers' agent, they thought he was a 3rd or 4th round pick, but too big of a name to be a clipboard holder, which I think is chicken bleep. This is what Ewers' agent had to say. To which my response is, yeah, that answer you gave is chicken bleep. Here's what the rest of the league thought about Quinn Ewers. It's the same thing that I and you and most people thought about Quinn Ewers when they watched him play football, which is, yeah, I just don't think he's very good. I don't think he's a very good quarterback, and he would probably be much better served by going back and playing another year of college football. Probably not at Texas. He probably would have had to go somewhere else. But playing another year of college football, seeing if you can get a little bit better, and then maybe trying out the NFL draft next year. Frankly, I wasn't very surprised to see Quinn Ewers go in the 7th round. This is apparently the explanation that was given to his agent, that he was, quote, too big of a name to be holding a clipboard out there, which I just find to be a preposterous reason. And I don't believe that that's what NFL teams actually thought.
Yeah, that sounds like some agent BS, some agent bull bleep.
Not
Replace
chicken.
the chicken bleep with bull bleep from the agent here. That didn't make sense to me. I understand the Shedeur Sanders thing. I do get that. It's like everything that comes with Shedeur Sanders, you want that as a backup? I mean, is it really, is it worth it? I mean, I still would say, the talent could end up being worth it. But I totally get that being a deterrent if you're not like, he is our guy. Too big of a name to be the NFL filled with people who are like great college quarterbacks who sometimes just don't even sniff the league.
I think they're also trying to make this out like because of his recruiting profile back in high school.
Yeah.
Because he was an outstanding recruit. I think he was like the number 2 recruit in the class.
Somebody had him number 1.
Somebody had him number 1.
Yeah.
But how many guys in the history of football have been high level recruits that maybe don't end up having the same college career that you think, and they end up getting drafted and they're like 5th or 6th round players. And no NFL team is like, well, this guy was a heck of a recruit in high school, so we can't take him to be our backup. Like, it makes no sense. I read this story and I was like, all right, this agent is just totally full of it here. This is just total bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a team BS'd him, I guess, but like half the league said this. Yeah, so reading, like, this is the writer here of the story. And in other words, NFL teams thought Ewers, who was this big recruit, was too big a name to have as the development quarterback. It's one of the consequences discovered in the NIL era of college ball. There's a lot of consequences in the NIL era. One of the consequences is not that, like, teams in the NFL give a crap ever about what somebody was as a recruit. Ever. Makes no sense.
Yeah. I watch. You tell me. When I saw that Quinn Ewers was coming out in the draft this year,
We
I think
talked
we had
about
a
it.
conversation
We
and we
absolutely
said,
did.
what is he doing? Like,
Yeah.
why are you going in the draft this year? I don't think, first off, here's the other part of this story that's bullcrap that I have a hard time believing. Quinn Ewers didn't expect to be a first-round pick, but maybe in the second round, maybe being more in the second. I was like, well, who are you paying attention to? Because there was never any sort of suggestion that I saw that he was going to be a second-round pick.
Yeah, we talked about, Brugler did have his way too early last year, had him in the first round this year. But I mean, watching him this year, he just wasn't, to me, he just doesn't quite have the tools to be a top quarterback. Yeah, I guessed. I mean, I could have bought 5th, 6th. He went 7th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that big of a slide?
I mean, not by people living in the real world. I mean, every single agent. Yeah, I've talked about this before too. Like you cover a college beat, and you talk to the guys who are leaving, trying to go on the draft. Talk to all their agents, and like every single one of them has their client projected and have told their client they're going 3 rounds earlier than they really are for sure. So if someone says, "Yeah, I'm probably like 4th round pick." Okay, so UDFA 7th. I'm hoping for like the 2nd. Okay, so you're about a 5th rounder. I mean, sometimes you actually do have top, but that's just how it goes. So some agents. Like this guy, I think he's just covering his butt with this stuff, Yeah.
You may have to, who knows? Like, hopefully Tua can stay healthy this year in Miami, but we'll see if Quinn Ewers makes the team first off. And maybe he has to play at some point.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the field this year.
It's probably not going to end up well for the Miami Dolphins.
The Dolphins and Browns play. We get some Quinn Shador
quarterback
duel.
615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Corey Curtis will join us. Coming up next from News 2, we'll get his thoughts on the Titans, the NHL draft lottery for the Preds, and a whole lot more. That's coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. Corey, good morning. How are you?
Just enjoying the nectar of the morning, that's all.
Well, that's good. 45 degrees this morning when I woke up, so I was not enjoying that. It's May.
I'm having coffee. I'm drinking coffee.
I got you. I'm on my third cup, which I'm not really a big coffee guy, but on my third cup so far today.
Well, you're a dad now, so get used to it.
That's true. That is true. Corey, could be potentially a big day for the Nashville Predators today. The NHL draft lottery is tonight. They have, at the moment, an 11.5% chance of landing the number 1 overall pick. I want to ask you a philosophical question here.
If the best pick is a defensive player, do you take him?
That's exactly what I'm asking you. The best pick looks like it's going to be a defensive player. Matthew Schaefer is pretty clearly, and I think almost consensus, the number 1 player in the draft when you ask all the gurus, and he is a high-level defenseman. The Predators, as you know, have never had that number 1 center. And there's a guy or two in this draft that I think could potentially become that one day. So I ask you, let's say the Predators land the number 1 overall pick. What would your reaction be if they went with the defenseman over the centerman, even though the defenseman may clearly be the best player available?
If he's clearly the best player, then they have to take him. You just have to, I hate to say grit your teeth and bear it, but you do. You just have to take him. Roman Yossi's not getting any younger. And it's not like the Preds defense was tremendous last year. Okay. Look, unless you're telling me, hey, the number 2 pick, he's going to be the next Stamkos as well. Because we've had those drafts where it's been 3-4 deep with just major stars. Then I could see doing it. But I'm sorry, I'm not a hockey prospect expert. I'm going to tell you I'm not.
It's okay.
But if this guy is clearly, the stuff, then you got to take him, and trust that you're going to find somebody somewhere else, even though you really haven't in 25 years.
So, do you think that the Blackhawks, are they going to do like the frozen ping pong ball thing, or how do you think they're going to rig it for the Blackhawks tonight, Corey?
Not much is working for the Blackhawks, so
that's a shame.
People are broken up around here about it.
It's okay. The Red Wings are not exactly, bouncing back. It's been a rough go for some of the NHL's best. Look, true. With the Blackhawks, as a Chicagoan, it comes down to ownership. Do you want to win? How serious are you? And when they've been serious about winning, they've seriously won. And when you're serious about losing, you seriously lose. So, I don't know. They've got a lot of pieces to add. I'm not going to go into the conspiracy theory that it's rigged. Sorry. I hear too much of that in this world today. I'm not going to go there for the ping pong balls.
I generally agree with you philosophically. Just not on. Just the only conspiracy is for the Blackhawks, though. That's the one. That's the one that I allow. Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So Corey, I'm asking you the same question I asked Rexrode earlier in the show. On the Titans front, what do you feel better about right now? The Titans on the offensive side of the ball, or the Titans on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, you feel good that you think they've got a quarterback. It's a roll of the dice. Really, what's the hit rate on these guys at that position? With the first 5 picks of the draft, isn't it 25%?
Roughly, yes.
Yeah. So it's hard to be yes, they've got their guy. Things will be different when you know that, regardless of how good guys have been. But to me, you've drafted the guy who's supposed to be your cornerstone piece on offense. And I don't know if they have that guy on their defense, right now. I know Jeffrey Simmons has kind of been that guy for a while, but he's in year 7. They don't have, if they had a 15 sack guy that you knew, I might feel better about their defense. But with what looks like a competent offensive line and the quarterback of your future, I think I might lean more towards the offense.
That's 3 for 3, actually. Yeah. We both
it's
said
a scary
the same.
place to be.
Yeah, it is a scary place to be. Well, I mean, you mentioned the offensive line, Corey. First of all, of course, it's going to be very difficult to – you can't be – I really don't think you can be worse. I think it's going to be difficult.
We've said that before.
Yeah, I know. But, I mean, yes. But I do believe that, and I do believe that it'll be very hard to not be better.
This is a realistic plan, though, Joe. Before, there's been a lot of hope in the plan. Well, I hope this guy develops. Well, I hope this guy is good. Hope these guys on the right side can come together. They've got an established guy at every position. Zeitler is a pro. All right. Zeitler is a pro. It's like bringing in the big guy from the Rams that played left guard.
Roger Saffold.
Yes.
Saffold. Yeah. It's like bringing Saffold. He can play. Zeitler can play. And you feel you're not hoping like J.C. Latham can play the right tackle. You feel really good that he's going to be a good right tackle. And you've got a pro at center when he comes back. And you feel good about the trajectory Peter Skronsky's on. And, you better feel good about the guy you got at left tackle because you just gave him a whole bunch of money. So you feel good about the pieces you've got in place there.
But you just hit the hope, though. That's the hope element of it, right? I mean, to me, at least.
The left tackle?
Yeah.
Yeah, the left tackle, yes. But, there's some proof of product there. And, the proof hasn't always been the best, but it's certainly been better than what they've had.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. And I just look at defense right now, Corey. I know they just drafted Oladejo, but I'm looking at who's getting after the quarterback. And that to me scares the crap out of me for the defense right now, because I just don't know how good they're going to be getting after the quarterback. And if you can't do that in this league, in today's NFL, you're just up a creek on defense.
Yeah, I know there's the hope, again, there's that word hope, that they can kind of piece it together like the Commanders did last year. And you get a bunch from a bunch of different people. But Oladejo is a project. I mean, he hasn't played that position, very long. And the guys you bought in, like Low Carter and Draymond Jones, those guys, you're hoping to get like 5 or 6 from those guys. That would be good. You get 5 or 6 from Arden Key, and hope that Jeff gets 5 or 6. Hope that Javondre, moves up his number. So there's a lot of hope in that these guys all produce at, I hate to say what you think their maximum level is, because you think most of these guys, their maximum level is about 6-7 sacks, right?
Yeah, it's not a great scenario.
No, there's a lot of hope. So you better hope that the offense scores a ton of points, which they haven't been able to do in years.
Maybe the most debated topic, I think, last week on this station was Xavier Restrepo, or like just in general Titans.
Yeah.
It's like some people are like, look at what a great signing. And then we have oh my God, what are you doing? Where do you come down on him, Corey, just on that addition?
He's worth a look, right? Highly productive college player who knows his quarterback. It doesn't cost you anything to bring him in.
There's zero risk to it.
Yeah, I don't understand. You get 90 spots, right? I think you can afford with some of the guys we've seen here who take up one of those 90. I think you can certainly justify taking up one of those 90. You gotta, not everybody's gonna make it, and you can always tuck guys away on the practice squad. Mason Kinsey's been tucked away there for years, and he keeps coming back, and he keeps winding up on the roster. Maybe Xavier Restrepo is the next one. The speed is obviously a question, but the production speaks for itself. And let him show if he can do it at this level. And if he can't, thanks for playing. And if he can, wow, that was cheap.
Corey, last thing for you here. How would you rate Tyler Lockett's handshaking ability, and what did you make of his press conference? Like, I walked away from his press conference watching it last week, Corey, and said, yeah, I like that guy. Titans have a pretty good leader in that wide receiver room.
I didn't even have time to get out of my chair. I mean, I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. I mean, and I like most of these guys, so don't get it wrong, but it's different than it used to be. We used to have a lot better relationships with a lot of these guys. They were more open to it. They weren't as they quite often are now. And look, I get it. There's a lot more people coming after them from a lot more different areas. It's not just idiots on the radio in the morning.
Jeez.
Did you hear that shot I just came with?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Some other station.
But I mean, that was a throwback to 20 years ago, when, you felt like, I mean, he even said we were a part of the family. I think
I saw that.
Which was like, whoa, what? So yeah, I was thrown back, and, I think you need good people, especially veterans, to show people how to be good people quite a lot of times. Now you still have to be able to play. That is the other big part of this. And we'll see how much Tyler Lockett has left in the tank. But, the thing I love about Tyler Lockett is, I mean, he has missed like 1-2 games in his entire career. And he has done it, being a really small player, and still being really productive. And so I think he's got a lot to teach, because, we talk about him being the king of business decisions. There's a time and a place for everything. How many times have we seen guys get hurt, or more, and more often turn the football over trying to do too much?
Yep.
And that's what he talked about, is I don't want to turn the football over after I've already gotten the first down. And you know what that is? That's smart. Okay. And so they can use a guy to teach guys situational football and how to be smart. And he's not, this isn't like bringing in Julio Jones. You didn't trade a second and a fourth, and you're not paying him, double figure, millions to come in here and play. It's like a $5 million deal, right? I mean, so that to me is a very responsible signing with a clear plan. I mean, I think when Callie was asked about it, he said, with Cam Moore's development, he said, it's a part of it, and so, yes, it's a small part of it, and they could afford a small part of it, not only financially, but in that room. And so, it's just another element to show you why they like him, and he was worth bringing in. And again, if it doesn't work out with him, they're not that invested.
Corey, great stuff as always. I hope the coffee's tasting good this morning, and we'll talk to you next week.
Is the sun going to come back out this month?
God, I hope so.
Hey, by the way, keep Isaiah Thomas's name out of your mouth too.
Every time it's about riling you up, I'm like, you guys are all missing the point here. Isaiah Thomas was so overrated.
Yes, yes. Get in there.
Diminutive point guard who just got under people's skin. Yay, good for him.
Yes, that face is getting redder as we speak.
Way to get me going.
Yep. Thank you, Corey.
Now, that Joe Dumars was classy. He could have played for the Bulls.
Yes. There we go. Corey Curtis, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic, joins us every Monday morning.
We'd love to have Dennis Rodman on our team. Of course we would.
Yeah, exactly. We'll react to what Corey had to say. Again, you can check out Corey Curtis on our program every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor, presented by Gary Force Acura at Hermitage Golf Course, is back coming up on Thursday, May 29th. Sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Appreciate Corey Curtis from News 2 for being with us in the last segment. By the way, I got some tickets to give away. A 4-pack of tickets to see the Sounds take on the Norfolk Tides at First Horizon Park this Thursday. First pitch at 6:35. Be caller number 2, 615-737-1025. Caller 2 will win a 4-pack of tickets to the Sounds and the Tides at First Horizon Park this Thursday. Corey Curtis got you triggered there in the last part of that segment.
A little bit. It's funny we're talking about Isaiah Thomas. I'm looking at Kendrick Perkins predicting that Giannis is going to the Pistons next year. I had not thought about that one.
You know where he needs to go? He needs to go to San Antonio. That's where he needs to go. You imagine a Wemby and Giannis combo down there? Even though Popovich is not the coach anymore?
That would be, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like you put him on any team and it's going to be like, man, him and whoever. I mean, it's like, he's, but it's also interesting, just his style of play. I don't think it fits everywhere.
No.
Interesting. But yes, Corey with his BS about, and he knows it's wrong. He knows it's wrong that Isaiah was left off the dream team. And that his guy, Jordan, made it happen because he had to be a little baby.
It's not what the documentary said.
Yeah, the hagiography. Yeah. I know. The fantasy.
I need to watch that again. It's on Netflix. You'd go check out the Last Dance again. I haven't watched it since it originally came out.
Yeah. I watched it during COVID when all you could do is watch everything. And it was like, well, okay, I guess we'll watch this. Like, this is just as much big loads of BS as I expected it would be.
Remember we did like entire shows or half shows on The Last Dance because there's nothing else going on?
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was good.
Real good time.
I missed that.
Real good time in the world of sports out there.
Great time of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey Curtis, again, feeling better about the offense. That means you, me, and Corey Curtis feel better about the offensive side of the ball right now than the defensive side of the ball for the Tennessee Titans, which frankly makes me incredibly nervous.
Yeah, I mean, basically just a bad commentary on the defense is pretty much what that is. I mean, it's no one's excited about either side of the ball.
Other than Cam Ward.
Yeah, but at least
just the natural intrigue there.
Yeah, at least there's the number one player in the whole draft is on one side, so I'm going with that side.
Yeah, I mean, I at the moment, how their edge rush group is lined up, short of Oladejo just coming out and being an absolute monster, which I don't know how realistic that is at the NFL level, particularly with his background and just having switched and played this position. I think he's definitely more of a project. It's going to take some time, and maybe eventually he turns into that player. But frankly, right now, based on where their roster is, it could be a struggle at getting after the quarterback this year.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier the whole idea of L'Jarius Sneed actually being available, actually being good, actually being healthy, being somewhat close to what he was 2 years ago. This all sounds, I mean, it sounds frankly a little bit hopeful, a little bit sunshine. I think that could happen. But if that's the case, and you're solid in the back end, maybe some of the pressure stuff that this defense is supposed to be all about, maybe you can do more of that stuff, and make up for the fact that you just don't have, you're not gonna have great 4-man rush. I don't think
so either. But maybe they can find a way to manufacture some of that this year. They did not do a great job of that last year. So I just think there are some holes on the defense right now that are going to be pretty difficult to fill. Not that I feel great about the offensive side of the ball either, but they've at least addressed the offensive line. We'll see how effectively. They have addressed wide receiver to a degree. We'll see how effectively they've done that. And obviously they've clearly addressed quarterback, and we'll see how quickly Cam Ward can step in there and elevate the quarterback play.
They've done way more on offense.
Yeah.
So a decent hit rate with all the things they've done. Yeah, I like that side better.
Some news coming down. Michigan coach Sherrone Moore is expected to be suspended for 2 games of the upcoming 2025 college football season as a part of self-imposed sanctions by the university in going back to the Connor Stallions advanced scouting scandal. This is coming from Dan Wetzel, Pete Thamel, but it looks like Sherrone Moore will be suspended a couple games. Head coach of Michigan.
But that's Michigan's attempt.
Correct.
Tell you what, man, You know, their president just announced that he's leaving. He's going to Florida. All due respect to Florida, you know, Michigan. I mean, that's not a step up in terms of university prestige. And he's only been there like a couple of years. I think maybe 3 years, 2-3 years.
Getting out before the hammer drops.
I mean, it's interesting. You've got some show causes have been handed out too. Jesse Minter, former Vanderbilt assistant. You know, again, those guys, like he's in the NFL, it's fine, but he's got a show cause. He couldn't coach in college. I mean, the trail of whatever you want to call it that leads back to Harbaugh is it's quite something. So
meanwhile, he's just happy as a clam out there in LA coaching the Chargers.
Man. Yeah. Talking about how, you know, cheaters should never prosper and things like that. No, I mean, it's interesting. That's self-imposed. That's a pretty big self-imposed punishment.
Yep.
And makes you wonder what they're trying to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's some news on that front. Sharon Moore expected to be suspended 2 games this year, a self-imposed sanction by the University of Michigan. We'll take it any way you want to take it. We'll get more of your thoughts on the Titans question of the day. Which side of the ball do you feel better about, the offense or the defense? It is NHL Draft Lottery Day. Barry Trotz is speaking later today, addressing the media for the first time since the season came to a close as well. Any way you want to take it, our phone lines are wide open, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game.
I like the khakis. If I wear them every day, then, you know, you don't have to spend time thinking about what to wear.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Skyler on the text line. Going back to what Corey Curtis brought up about the Titans pass rush and saying, well, maybe you could get 5 or 6 sacks out of Arden Key and 5 or 6 sacks maybe out of Jeffrey Simmons. Skyler says Arden Key freaking sucks. That's the only thing that's in the text.
Wow.
It is kind of amazing he's still here.
Tell us what you really feel.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing he's here. He's going to play a ton.
He's going to be maybe their best option right now.
I mean, they basically everything they've done, people you say whatever you want, watch the games, think whatever you want. Everything the Titans have done say they believe Arden Key is tremendous. If you could just bottle up that one game in New Orleans.
If we could bottle up the one game in New Orleans or the training camp performance against Andre Dillard.
Yes.
Either one of those things, Titans be in good shape at edge rusher.
If you hear
Remember all that talk at training camps? Like, good Lord, you guys should see Arden Key out here. He is annihilating the practices.
He had lost some weight, so I was like, okay, it's a kind of a, reborn player.
It's like, who's he going up against? Andre Dillard? Oh,
he's going to be fine. So Key must be really good.
Yeah. Didn't work out that way. Although he played great in that first game against New Orleans. What do you have, like 2 sacks in that game? Forced fumble?
Did he not have 3? Maybe
he may have.
I don't know. But yes, he was a force. But he's still around, and he's going to play a lot. And he's okay. I mean, it's not that bad, Skyler. Dennis says,
I love Paul Kuharsk from paulkuharsk.com. My name is Arden Key.
He is a great reporter. That reminds me of Corey talking about family members. If Tyler Lockett thinks media is fan, what is Kuharski?
That's a good question.
The uncle that you just hope leaves?
Guess so.
Please leave Thanksgiving.
By the way,
you've had dessert.
Arden Key is a debut with the Titans against the Saints. Only 1.5 sacks.
Okay.
He did have 2 quarterback hits, and I'm not seeing the forced fumble stat on Pro Football Reference. I'm just not seeing it.
I thought
it's not there. I'm sure he probably did.
Yeah. We'll give it to him. Okay.
Yeah, we'll give it to him.
Dennis says
he was all over the place in that game.
On the Zietler front, is it like signing Roger Saffold or like signing Andy Levitre?
Zietler?
Yeah. First of all, let me get his name right. Zietler. He is good.
Ziegler.
Sakai Zeitler.
The Titans have signed Sakai Ziegler to play right guard.
He'd probably figure a way to do it. He'd probably actually hold up, No, he's a good signing. Again, I didn't like the overall tone with Brian Callahan, the eternal optimist that he is. He was adamant about Zeitler. And it's like, yeah, Dan Moore too. Yeah, he's there too.
We also signed him. That's a move we made.
Left tackle. I'm sure he'll be fine. But the Zeitler commentary, he brought him up whenever he had a chance to bring him up last week.
He's fired up.
Zeitler's good.
Zeitler is good. I got one texter that says, I feel worse about the offense, given that's what Callahan is more directly involved with. It's from an unnamed texter on the text line, who not a very big Brian Callahan fan.
Yeah, we need to come up with something. Obviously we have excellent ideas in, Cam Dews and what are you doing?
Yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah, that's just I don't say it enough. I'm going to try to remind myself to say it more often. But there's a Callahan. The Callahaters are just hardcore. I mean, I know that's kind of obvious. I'll come up with something better. But like there's a really okay Callacants. That's not bad. They just really think he's. I mean, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's anything on the football field last year that gives me a tremendous amount of confidence. I am going to tell you that they had the worst roster in the NFL. Like, does that not matter?
Sure.
Not saying he did a good job, but I'm just saying, like, one season with the worst roster in the NFL, there are other coaches who would have done just as poorly. Other coaches also probably would have done more with that roster. I totally agree. He's also a rookie head coach. We'll see.
No, I'm with you. I think one of the fundamental questions of this season, heading into it, beyond the obvious of all the Cam Ward stuff, obviously he's going to be a big part of it. But how much, if indeed they have improved their offensive line to the point where it is passable, how much of a difference does that alone make, right? Like, how much does having a halfway decent offensive line make in terms of protecting the quarterback, being able to call the entire playbook, as TD pointed out on Friday. Like, you're limited in what you can call when your offensive line is absolute buns, the way that it's been the last couple of years around here. So, again, I'm not asking for the offensive line to be great, but if it could be middle of the pack, how much better is your offense just purely based off of that, regardless of anything else that you want to talk about, whether it's quarterback play, whether or not Brian Callahan's a good play caller. Like, I think you begin to find out the answer to more of those things if you can get your offensive line to a point where it's not just caving in every time you drop back to pass.
Right. And then, if it's middle of the pack and you actually have receivers who are out there causing problems for people, and, obviously quarterback play is the most important thing, but just the receivers. Like, do you have help for Calvin Ridley that's actually competent? All that stuff. And then the coaching. I mean, that makes the offensive line better too. They all feed each other. And but to your point, yeah, you still have to get to a certain level of just competence with that offensive line. And I'm looking at left tackle. And if it's just fine, okay, decent, you're upgraded.
Yeah. Well, then frankly, like, with the revamped offensive line, we're going to spend so much time talking about the quarterback part of it, but like, how well can they run the ball? Because look, we talk about the 2016 Mariota season all the time, right? And how good he was, and he was. But it was a big part of that year. They got DeMarco Murray, and the offensive line was a really good run blocking offensive line, and that took a whole lot of pressure off the quarterback. It would be nice to have that for Cam Ward this year, the ability to run the football and him not have to drop back 45 times a game and throw it. That would be nice.
Right. And the not having to drop back 45 times also has something to do with, is your defense
the score. Yes.
Is your defense gonna be solid too. But there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of things that they've addressed, and it's just how well have they addressed it? How quickly are some of these fixes going to actually, help this year? That's another thing. Someone here just hates Traylon Burks so much. It's like counting the days that he's been on the team. I got day 12-16 on Friday. Now today, day 12-18. Now, wait a minute. If Friday was day 12-16, wouldn't that make Sunday 12-18? You got to get. Do you have your days right or not? One of those days is wrong. 1,200 and something days with Traylon Burks on the team.
It's been that many days? That's a lot of days.
I mean, I guess that,
I guess that's
3
right.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah. So we're good at math.
Yeah. That's what we got into.
But wait a minute. But that's 3 years is 900 plus 365. That's 180. That's about 1,100.
I mean, the AI says 1,074.
Yeah, we're off significantly.
What? So you're just like making stuff up. I mean, I like the idea of being this petty, but like you're 200 days off. It's like going back to
ahead.
He was drafted in 2022, and it is 2025.
It's been exactly 3 years.
Almost. Yeah.
Like, are you going back to Texas? Are you going back to like when he worked out the combine or something?
Yeah.
Like, was that when you started being angry at Traylon Burks?
Do you get extra days for hog hunting? Like, you add that to it?
All those hog hunting days are tacked down there.
You ready for this? Dylan on the text line says Callahan's first season was cataclysmic. It's from Dylan in Antioch.
Okay, I kind of like that one.
Cataclysmic.
Cataclysmic is pretty good, Dylan. Shout out to you. We can't use it like to call the people who hate him.
No, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, we're gonna keep that one.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. Barry Trotz addressing the media today. It's NHL Draft Lottery Day. Predators with a chance to land the number 1 overall pick tonight in the NHL Draft. We'll get into all that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final segment of the day, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Barry Trotz speaking later today at 12:15. By the way, we will be carrying that press conference live here on 102.5 The Game. DVD will have that covered for you. So Barry Trotz addressing the media at roughly 12:15 today, the first time he will address the media since the season came to an end. Joe, I'm interested to see what he has to say. Obviously, this has been a longer process than anticipated in terms of him addressing the media. I believe it was originally supposed to happen, I think, the Wednesday after the season ended, which would have been roughly a week when the regular season ended. And it's gone on, obviously, much longer than that to this point. It's May the 5th. So it's been a while to this point. Will he come out today and say definitively that Andrew Brunette is back as head coach? That's my expectation, that probably happens today. We'll see if it goes down that way at the press conference or not. It'll be an interesting show tomorrow if it doesn't go that way. But what are you most interested to hear about beyond the Brunette stuff today as it relates to Barry Trotz?
Yeah, well, first of all, that clearly, and and then talk about it and why. I can't even. I think we've all eliminated the possibility that he's going to say Brunette's out. Alex Doherty left open the possibility that he might just continue to say he's still evaluating.
That would be interesting.
Would be just wild to me. I mean, I think he's going to say Brunette's back, and so then I want to hear why. And as much transparency about the decision-making process of talking to everybody, going through the exit interviews, also just considering this team, the state of this team, how bad it was last year, and why, since you can't change the composition of the roster too much, why this is your choice.
I would love to know how open he's going to be on his conversations with the players at the end of the year. Like, I don't have the expectation that he's just going to air every part of the exit meetings that he's had with Marchessault and Stamkos and the veterans today. But, like, it's no secret. Like, Marchessault made some comments publicly that made the rounds and were a pretty high level of interest around the league, right? Like, we talked about him here. They made their way around the league in terms of his comments on what he had to say about the system and the changes, and Bruce Cassidy, the Vegas Golden Knights, moving forward here. So, what was Trotz's thoughts on that, and how much did he take into account, like, what went on at the exit meetings into what clearly has been a challenging decision? Like, we played a clip from Elliot Friedman last week on DVD, and I agree with him. Like, if you think that there are all these names out there available at coach and the Predators never had conversations about whether or not they should go after those guys, I think you're crazy. Like, there was clearly an evaluation process here. And if he has come out and he does say today that Andrew Brunette's coming back as head coach, it clearly was not cut and dry. Like, Brunette, as of the last time we talked to him, did not know if he was coming back as head coach or not.
For sure. So I'm with you. I'd love to hear as much as he might reveal. We focus so much on those two guys and Marchessault in particular. Did anyone go hard to bat for him?
Right.
But the thing is, even if that's the case, it's like, so I'm not expecting everybody on the roster to just agree on everything, but like, is that a source of conflict among guys on this team? I mean, that's where it's like,
I thought Kyle Dubas of Pittsburgh had some pretty interesting comments last week. Obviously they fired Mike Sullivan, and he had his press conference after that, and they were just asking him about basically like Crosby, right? Like Crosby's thoughts on it. And Dubas said, basically, like, in my experience, if you start asking the players about all that stuff, he said, what you'll typically find is 7 or 8 guys love the coach and just love everything about the coach. 7 or 8 guys hate the coach and don't want to play for the coach. And the other guys, for the most part, are just kind of indifferent. Like, it's kind of
right. Depends on which guys.
It probably does depend on which guys. Like, I would say if you're Edmonton and like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl don't like your coach, it's probably an issue.
They count
at that point
as more than 2.
Right.
We have texters, texter today who just has to just attack Cole Smith. If Cole Smith loves Brunette, I don't know how much weight that carries.
I'm drawing the line at Cole Smith. Whatever he says, we're going with.
Cole Smith dictates policy.
But I bring that up to say, like, how many players deep down like have super strong opinions on what they should do with the coach, and how many of them are just like, yeah, tell me who's coaching the team and we'll go out there and play. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Yeah, I think you get that's the thing though with this team, the veterans that you have, what they've achieved, what they're trying to do here late stage together. Frankly, like you want them to feel good about things. They do know a thing or two about effective coaching in the National Hockey League.
It is also NHL Draft Lottery Day, and the numbers at the moment, I mean, I say at the moment, it's what the numbers are. They have an 11.5% chance by the numbers of
Like
getting
the
the number
market?
1 overall pick. Yeah, it's going up and down.
Yeah.
They have 11.5% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. We know, Joe, that they're going to be picking somewhere between 1 and 5. We had Adam Kimmelman on from NHL.com earlier. If you missed that, go check it out, Robby and Rexrode, wherever you get your podcast. But I thought he was really good. I thought, really good stuff in terms of, the Schaefer conversation is interesting. Let's say the Predators land the number 1 overall pick. I think Schaefer, by most evaluations, is going to be the number 1 player on the board. The Predators have never been able to find a number 1 centerman in the draft. And this would be maybe an opportunity to do that if a guy like Michael Misa is there. So you may be right. Like maybe the best thing possible for the Predators, if you're wanting a centerman, is for them to finish like 2nd or 3rd and be like, San Jose, you guys go take Schaefer. We'll pick one of these centermen out here.
Yeah. And I still, we should have asked him, but like I still don't understand how when you finish 3rd from last, the 3rd pick is such a low possibility for you.
It's too many
What's the percentage for them to pick 3rd? It's like 4 or something like that. Like
7.8.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. I got in this business to not do math, and I don't know what all that means.
Yeah. So,
but we know it's 1 through 5 somewhere.
Yeah. So
they're going to end up with a good player. The question is, who, how good, what position, and are they ready to play quickly?
And if they are 5, then the guy we talked about,
McQueen.
Yeah, McQueen. That might be like a choice that they're looking at, like high upside, but back injury.
And I will say, like, if they're 5, does Hagens fall to 5? Some people think he might. And if he does, I would not hate that pick at 5 if you're the Nashville Predators. We'll see how it goes. That does it for us today. Chase and Big Joe coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.